and welcome to the first broadcast of GNTV. In today's programme, we want to encourage you with stories of hope from all over the world. We'll be looking at the organisation Tear Fund, a charity that provides emergency relief to disaster situations worldwide. Also, Soul in the City, a massive initiative run by Soul Survivor that plans to take London by storm this summer. And join us as we meet the people from Team Challenge and hear some incredible life-changing stories of those who once walked the streets. But first up, the Toy Box charity. Toy Box works within the poorest areas of Latin America, rescuing children from the streets. In Guatemala City, it runs a detailed rescue plan for street kids, which includes placing them in homes and rehabilitation. GNTV met with Liz Pito, who has just returned from a gap year in Guatemala, to tell us more.
Toy Box works, its mission statement is to rescue street children in Latin America, but specifically at the minute they just work in Guatemala. So,
is that because there's a particular need in Guatemala?
It's because Duncan Dyson, who was the guy who founded the charity, he watched a TV programme, the BBC broadcast, I think it was They Shoot Children, Don't They? And that just really touched him, really felt God was calling him just specifically to Guatemala. So that's where he went out, and that's where it all sprung from. That's
amazing, because that's similar to how Band-Aid and Live Aid started, isn't it? With Bob Geldof watching a programme. You talk about rescue. Is there any accent on prevention as well?
Yeah, they work in two different places, Escuintla and in Guatemala City, and they have two things called high-risk teams. Which they go and they work with the poorest children who are most at risk of becoming street children. They're the ones which don't go to school, they're the ones whose parents don't have jobs. And they give them education, they provide kind of everyday sort of life skills as well as literacy and stuff. And they also help the parents. They go in, they give social work, and they help them. They're trying to start some like vocational courses, so give them parents a chance just to get some jobs, and like actually jobs that are worth something.
So this is a sort of all-round tackling of the problem, not just rescuing children, but trying to stem the flow, if you like, of more children onto the streets.
Yeah, most definitely, yeah.
All right, so you arrive in Guatemala. What do you find? What do you see?
It's amazing country. It's almost like two different worlds in some respects, because you've got the countryside where a lot of Guatemalans still live in traditional villages. They still wear the traditional clothes. A lot of them speak traditional Mayan languages. And then you move into the city, and it's just like crazy westernized. It's McDonald's every 2 seconds, it's Burger King, skyscrapers, and so you'd be like excused for thinking that it's any normal city, but you just go off the main roads and then you've got kind of shanty towns, and you've got children living on the streets. So it's really amazing the difference between Guatemala City and the countryside.
And do desperate, needy, homeless children exist in both the villages and the towns? Mainly
in the Guatemala City, because a lot of the children who live in the countryside, that's where they would leave to try and find work. It's kind of the whole sort of bright lights of a city sort of syndrome going on, I think.
And once a child ends up on the streets, like any modern city, they're going to be exposed to the dangers of drugs, prostitution possibly. What type of problems do they face?
Both of them. Drugs is a big thing. Solvents. A lot of them sniff solvents just to like numb the pain. One of the boys that got to chat to, he lives on the streets, he was saying that he takes glue to like numb the pain in here, and it's not just they take them so they can get away from the fact that they feel hungry. And when we went and played football with them and they weren't allowed to use their drugs for, I don't know, about an hour, 2 hours, they were just so starving by the end of it. They just ate absolutely tons. And then, so gang life is also a big thing. A lot of them are involved in gang culture.
So it's dangerous for them to try and get out of this life?
Yeah, it is. It's very difficult for them once they're on the streets because of the gangs, because of the violence that's associated with that. And also, there are a number of adults who kind of have a big hold on them. There's one lady who, and some of the kids have been in Toy Box homes, and she's had such a hold on them that they've actually come out of the homes because she wants them so that she can have some money because they pay her for living in her kind of house.
So how do the high-risk teams and the other teams working for Toy Box break this terrible cycle?
I think it's just showing them love, really. It's all they can do is, it's a very difficult and long process from getting a child on the streets to live in a home where they can be secure, and it is a lot of love. All of the staff out there they just absolutely love the kids. They have such hearts for the children. The leader of the street team, he's just amazing. He treats them all like they're his own children, and he cares passionately for every single one of them. It's really inspiring to work with him.
Well, let's get to the nitty-gritty. The most important contributor of all, God, God's love. God is love.
Yeah.
How much is he making a difference to the work you're doing?
He's vital. Toy Box wouldn't be where it is today without God. He is the centre. They have like a thing that if it's a problem in Toy Box, then it's God's problem. So the whole charity is founded around him, and it came out of a calling from God. And everyone who works for Toy Box is a Christian. And yeah, he's vital to how it works, and vital to how it works in Guatemala and in the UK.
How much were you blessed personally? How has God sustained you in the low times, the dangerous situations?
Definitely through prayer. He was just so faithful. I remember the night before I went out, I was just like, why am I doing this? Why am I going? What's going on here? But just as soon as I arrived, I found the first week very difficult because I didn't know any Spanish, and that's what they speak over there. But just now looking back, just see God was there and that he was helping me. He helped me to learn Spanish, and by the end, just having conversations with people. And yeah, it was also amazing just to be really blessed by the kids out there, because you hear some of their kids' testimonies and how their lives just been so transformed from being on the streets, from prostitution, from drugs, and you just look at them now and their faith is just
amazing.
It's absolutely inspiring.
If you're thinking about a gap year or would like to be involved in the work of Toy Box, then send an email to info@toybox.org. That's info@toybox.org. Imagine working for a charity that was able to bring about lasting improvement to disaster situations all over the world. Well, the Tear Fund organisation does exactly that. It is one of the most respected charities in disaster relief worldwide. From Teddington at the Tear Fund base, Keith Ewing told Michael more about their unique work.
Well, Tear Fund very much takes the approach of Christ and his words, I come that they might have life and have it to the full. That's very much what Tear Fund's calling is when it comes to the billions of poor people in the world. So we work through churches as a Christian agency, we work through churches in the developing world, and they are taking a holistic approach to very, very poor communities where they live and work and minister. People don't just have spiritual needs. So I visited the Congo, where there's been a disgusting war taking place for many, many years, where child soldiers are killing, where people have decades of pain and war in their beings and in their families. And so as well as taking in food and medical help, the churches locally in the part of the Congo I visited were doing trauma counselling and helping people to come to terms with kind of the emotional pain that they were facing. And yes, the people being helped know that this is the church, know that they're coming with a spiritual dimension. So as far as Tear Fund's concerned, that is the added difference that Christians make. It's taking the compassion of Christ as well as the physical food.
So what about countries, Keith, where Christians aren't welcome because they're Christians, where Christianity is banned, not approved of by the official authorities?
Yes, I mean, I think in Afghanistan, I visited there, and Tear Fund's disaster response team was feeding, in effect, only Muslim communities. Tear Fund doesn't offer aid only to Christians. It's impartial, and certainly when we're in that country, we respect, the beliefs. The Taliban had outlawed any kind of missionary work, and Tear Fund was responding as Christ would to families who suffered hunger and disease and war. One of the most set upon countries in the world. Incredible stories of pain, but also of survival. And so Tear Fund was there offering food, help, support, encouragement so that these people could have hope for the future.
There are other issues, of course. HIV/AIDS is one. What's Tear Fund doing in that area?
AIDS is devastating many countries in Africa, and Also in Asia, AIDS is a problem that is growing. And a couple of weeks ago I was in Cambodia. And I mean, this is quite a good example of the difference that some Christian aid can make. The Tear Fund partners were in effect not driving into the slums where AIDS is rife. They were moving into the slums. They were living in the slums with the poorest of poor Cambodians. And they said, we're going to help them with HIV education, we're going to help them with medicine and care, but we want to share their lives as well. And it's that kind of incarnational approach that they were taking that you just didn't see from other aid workers who would arrive in their vehicles, maybe deliver really important aid. I'm not wanting to belittle it, but obviously they leave. Yet these Christians were there for the long term in an incarnational fashion. The benefit of the church in the developing world is that it's in the most far-flung communities of the world. You know, it's not like an agency from Britain flying in. These churches are there, and they live with and suffer with people who are suffering all these, you know, famine, drought, war. They're on the ground and they're being Christ in those situations. If you are the lowest of the low, you begin to believe that nobody values you. So when people move in, are your friends and get alongside you and like you and love you, you begin to get dignity back, self-esteem back, as well as the physical medical help, as well as the food. And you know, that's what Christ would do. He didn't just, you know, feed people when they were hungry, but he met, you know, other emotional needs and spiritual needs as well. And that's what a lot of Tear Fund partners are doing in different parts of the world. I think there are tens of thousands of Christians who would love to be in Cambodia or Ethiopia responding to some of the needs, and yet, you know, they have jobs, they have mortgages, they have children, and they can't do that. And so Tear Fund, which gets its support from Christians in the UK, has a range of options for volunteering, for praying. We have many groups that pray for Tear Fund and individuals. So we put prayer right up there with giving. We don't prioritise giving over prayer, because we see it as absolutely central to what Tear Fund's about. And for people who want to volunteer, they can, in terms of selling fair trade goods in their local church, or we have volunteering jobs whereby you can even preach in churches on behalf of Tear Fund. We'll train you up so that you know what to say. But that's another job we have. And relating to local media, getting the news of what Christians are doing to help poverty is another job. So there are probably 3,000 people around Britain who currently can't go abroad, but want to pray, want to give their time, and you know, they get as much fulfilment from that as some of the workers who go abroad.
If you'd like more information on Tear Fund, including volunteering and job seeking, then check out their website on tearfund.org. It's a fantastic website. So, summer holidays 2004, what will you be doing? Soul in the City 2004 is a huge event taking place in London this summer. The idea is for thousands of Christians to meet with millions of Londoners through various projects aimed at improving the quality of life for those living in the city. We met with Rachel Harper of the organisers, Soul Survivor.
Soul in the City is a large-scale Christian initiative that's happening in London, our capital city, over the summer. I don't know whether you're familiar with Manchester 2000 or Message 2000. Right. A similar event took place where thousands of young Christians invaded Manchester to do sort of social action, community projects, and come together to worship. And there were bands and cafes going on, just a big, large-scale mission. And off the back of the success of Manchester, it was felt by Soul Survivor and the organisers there that the same could be replicated in London, obviously on a bigger scale because London's such a big city. What's wonderful is that there are some churches, some smaller congregations that just don't have the resources to effectively connect with their community. So Soul in the City can provide bodies for 2 weeks to really get out. Perhaps a church that you know isn't sure how to meet the youth in their area. You know, when Soul in the City comes in, it will be perhaps perhaps for the first time, they'll really be able to connect with the youth in their area, in their community. And we pray and we hope that lasting links will be forged. It seems that our culture today is so intimately familiar with what Christianity is against. But what we want to do is try and communicate to people what Christianity is for. You know, that being a Christian is about loving people, it's about serving people, it's about communicating God's grace and unconditional love. And so by getting out into the community and getting our hands dirty, we're hoping that people will stop and ask questions. And obviously the local church, they're the ones that know what the specific needs are for their area, for their community. So the idea is that the local church is empowered and resourced to meet the needs with the help of 15,000 young people coming from all over the place. You know, that they can then do these community projects, these sports initiatives, cafes, clearing rubbish, you know, all of that stuff can be done. And there are local centre coordinators employed by Soul in the City to oversee those projects. So what happens is those 490 and growing churches are in constant communication with those local centres, and they're saying, what about this project, what about that project? And then the local centres can identify which projects are going to work, which will be most effective, which they can physically do, you know, in a 2-week time span.
I believe I read on your website in the evenings you're having various entertainment, you're having live music concerts, guest DJs and all sorts of things. Any hints as to which bands will be coming along?
Yeah, I think there'll be some regular favourites. The tribe will be coming down. We've got great links with all that goes on in Manchester, and I know the tribe are wanting to come down and support us, so they'll be playing. Andy Hunter, DJ Andy Hunter, he'll be gigging at one of the events. Another band called 29th Chapter, who are sort of a hip hop rap band. The Band with No Name. And the list goes on. Again, you know, it's evolving, and
it sounds logistically very complex.
Yes,
a lot of people involved. So 15,000 people.
That's what we anticipate. Yeah.
And nearly 500 churches involved
at the moment. Yeah.
And that's increasing all the time.
Yeah.
Is it?
And obviously the 15,000 delegates are those that aren't necessarily from London. They're coming from all over the country. Some are coming in from Australia and America even, because they've just got a real heart for the mission. So that doesn't include all of those that are perhaps congregation members at those 490 churches. Obviously Tony Blair and Mayor of London Ken Livingstone, they're right behind it. But the other key person that we feel so encouraged by is the the Commissioner of the Metropolitan Police, Sir John Stevens. He is so 100% behind this. And just to look back to Manchester, one thing that made such a difference there was the involvement of the police. They really got on board, and they really saw the difference that was being made in communities. You know, crime rates went down as a result, and stayed down post Message 2000. So that again was something that we felt would be key in London. And Sir John Stevens is right behind it. You know, he has ensured that the Met Police will support us 100% at the time. So that's incredibly exciting.
So does Tony Blair plan to come along with his rucksack and sleeping bag in tow, do you know?
No, we're hoping he might get stuck in with a bit of gardening or graffiti clearing. You never know.
Bacon and eggs in the morning.
Absolutely.
To find out more about Soul in the City, log on to soulinthecity.co.uk, and we'll keep you up to date with this event later in the year. All too often, those gripped by the bonds of addiction find themselves living on the streets and are treated as no more than rejects by the rest of society. Well, this is of great concern to those at Teen Challenge who demonstrate God's love by going out onto the streets and offering hope. Here's Javier at the Teen Challenge base in Whitechapel to tell us more. Javier, what is Teen Challenge?
Teen Challenge is an organisation that has been going for 45 years. It's an organisation that is set up to minister to drug and alcohol addicts, sharing the gospel of Jesus Christ and bringing the love and the power of the message of the gospel into their lives to break their addiction. We believe that God is interested in people who we consider to be in the fourth world. Many people take drugs for different reasons, and a lot of people have a view of a person who's a drug addict as, let's say, they're just not worth the time. They do resort to different things that, if we were in the right state of mind, ordinary people don't do, and therefore they're marginalised. But we feel that God has called us to work amongst these people to offer them the message of hope where they have very little hope.
How do you reach them? How do they get to know about Teen Challenge?
We operate around the UK. A mobile unit is a converted bus or coach that has been converted inside, and we would pull up at a local area that's known for having a drug problem. For instance, here in London, we go to 3 areas. One of the areas being locally here is Whitechapel. We would park outside the station, and we'd have workers that are trained, they're local church members, and they would come onto the bus, and then we would, after a time of prayer, we would open the doors, and we would have people come onto the bus to receive food, because we give out food. We also give out some clothing, food and hot drinks, and that attracts many addicts, because obviously there's free food and they tend to use most of their money on drugs. And word gets round, and that's how they come on, and we build relationships. We offer them a place, an interview in one of our men's or ladies' homes. We share to them about the gospel of Jesus Christ. We pray for them, and we just are there to show that Christ is interested in them. And our aim is to see someone who has no hope and has no sense of self-worth and regard for anyone else, really, come to a point where they have an identity, they have an assurance that they're loved, and they can begin to love other people, and also that they'll be able to be a productive citizen. There is no medication, so when they come in, we first of all contact their doctor and explain to the doctor, that they come into a program such as this, and that they would be an abstinence program where they have to stop the drug. So we get official confirmation that they're okay medically to undergo a cold turkey. If not, then we would send them up to the UK Centre for Detoxification, which is in Leeds, in Keighley, just outside Leeds. And they come into a program. They would come in, they would stop smoking, they would stop taking their drugs. They would be up at 7:15 in the morning, and it's very much structured all the way through the day, having a little bit of a free time during the day, but not too much. It's very much structured. There's a teaching program. We teach them a number of subjects. 14 subjects are taught in Teen Challenge, and those would include such things as temptation, love and accepting myself, how can I know I'm a Christian, attitudes, obedience to God, obedience to man. Some real things that they need to know and to understand, and how to apply it to their lives. And we teach that regularly every day, different subjects every day, from Monday to Friday. And then they're here for 3 months in London, and then we send them down to the main centre in Wales for further 9 months. And it's the same with our ladies' centre. We send them down to the ladies' centre down in Wales for further 9 months, and which when they come out, they can go back and work in and live in their society. We recommend that they don't go back to their same area, but if they want to get involved in the Ministry of Teen Challenge, we can offer them training, and we can offer them support and help in those areas as well.
I was addicted to drugs for 10 years, cocaine, crack, cannabis, and the lifestyle that comes with that. And ultimately I ended up living my life like a hermit in a room. Drugs ravaged me, tore me to pieces, I have 3 children. It just disconnected me from my children, disconnected me from my family. And whilst I was taking drugs, I just couldn't see no way out of this life. I used to wake up in the morning, and I started to accept that drugs was the only way for me. I was going to die a crackhead. In my head I was trying to figure it all out, but I was desperate and willing to try anything. So I made a commitment to Jesus Christ, and nothing changed automatically. There wasn't no bolts of lightning. Nothing happened automatically, but over a matter of weeks, my drug intake, praise the Lord, started to decline. Not a great number, but it was changing. Hope was building up within me. I started to hang around people from the church, and as I started to hang around people from the church, I started to notice that inner joy that they had, that peace that they had, and they had a joy. I said to myself in the back of my mind, I'm paying for what these people have got. So I used to find myself hanging around them and starting to learn about God and what God could do for me. Eventually, my pastor told me about Team Challenge, and what Team Challenge is, it's a 12-month Christian discipleship program. And they taught me about the Bible, and they taught me how to have a personal relationship with Jesus Christ. They took me through it step by step, and I went through the 12-month, and I've come to the end of that 12-month now, and I've got a really strong relationship with Jesus Christ. And because of that strong relationship with Jesus Christ, I stand here with no desire for cocaine, no desire for crack, no desire for alcohol. I'm excited about my new life. I've gone into a second part of Team Challenge, what trains me to come back into Team Challenge and help people come through what I've come through. I'm on the streets tonight, as you can see, and I'm talking life into people's lives. I'm telling them Jesus can change their life, because he changed my life, and here I am. Hallelujah.
By the time I was 18, I got introduced to the club scene where I was taking ecstasy and just abusing my drugs, and just as a teenager, just out of control in my parents' eyes. My parents didn't know what to do with me. I started getting sort of in trouble with the police. By the time I was 22, I realised that I had a baby boy on the way from my girlfriend that was pregnant. Even though I wanted to stop it for her, I couldn't. She gave me an ultimatum, whether either her and the baby or my drugs. At the time, obviously, it would be her, but I just couldn't get off my addiction. 4th of March 2003, I entered Team Challenge. A broken man. I wasn't a Christian. I hadn't even picked up a Bible in my life, but I was open to it all, you know. Walked into Team Challenge on the 4th of March. Didn't know where I was going. Didn't know how long I was going to last. A week into Team Challenge, I had an encounter with God. I got prayed for by the members of staff in Team Challenge. I had sort of like bolts of electric just go from my body. I should have withdrew in Team Challenge. I should have withdrew a week into the programme. I never had no withdrawal symptoms from the heroin. This was like a 2-year addiction that I had. Currently in London and the staff training. Looking at becoming a staff member at Team Challenge. I'm going off to Swaziland in Africa on June the 28th to go and help with the orphans out there and trying to bring people into God's kingdom, you know, with God's help. And I just praise God for what he's done in my life. He's such a good God, you know, he's turned my life around 190 degrees.
Well, join us next time and we'll take a closer look at the discipling programme of Team Challenge. And for more amazing stories of hope, tune in again next week to GNTV. But for now, from me, Julie Abbott, goodbye.